who was Thomas Sydenham? Thomas Sydenham was an English doctor who lived between 1624 and 1689 during the Renaissance period. He was sometimes known as the English Hippocrates. Like Hippocrates, he also placed importance on doctors observing patients and making detailed records. Sydenham, like William Harvey, took a scientific approach to medicine. He believed it was important to observe patients and record their symptoms or their signs of illness. Sydenham therefore said that doctors should not simply rely on reading books but need to carry out clinical observation. By using this more scientific approach, Sydenham was able to spot patterns and similarities between symptoms and illnesses. He said that studying illnesses and diseases was a bit like studying plants. A rose and a camellia, for example, share similar features but are actually different flowers. His big idea, therefore, was that many diseases have similar symptoms but are actually different illnesses. For example, Sydenham observed that although patients who had measles shared similar symptoms to patients with scarlet fever, they were in fact different diseases. Sydenham went even further by saying that the four humours theory wasn't the correct way to explain why someone was ill. The four humours theory said the illness could be specific to a person. For example, if someone was born in the spring, medieval doctors believed that they may be likely to suffer from an excess of phlegm. So the treatments that they prescribed a spring-born patient may differ to what they may have prescribed for an autumn-born patient. Instead, Sydenham argued that treatment should be based on the disease itself that the doctor had identified a patient suffering with. So he would say that if a patient had measles, the treatment should be the same for all other patients with measles, and not vary between patients. Sydenham therefore stressed the importance of doctors noting down the symptoms and then choosing treatments based on the particular disease that was then identified. In 1676, Thomas Sydenham wrote down all his great ideas in his book called Medical Observations. Nice that he used a catchy title this time. In this book, Sydenham not only classified types of diseases but also recorded treatments. He was the first doctor to introduce laudanum, extracted from opium as a painkiller, and quinine, which came from the bark of the cinchona tree, to treat malaria. Key learning. Sydenham said that doctors should study patients' symptoms closely and treat the disease that was causing them. Sydenham said that disease would not be different from person to person, so treatment should be based on the disease itself and not an individual's symptoms. This was very different to the four humours theory. Sydenham identified that measles and scarlet fever were different diseases, even though he wasn't able to scientifically prove that they were caused by different germs. Scientific proof that germs existed was still a way off yet.